They gathered like vultures when they thought you had fallen for good. They whispered behind closed doors, sneering at your misfortune, delighting in your suffering, as if it validated their own mediocrity. Your wounds were their spectacle, your pain, their entertainment. They reveled in your downfall because for a moment, it made them feel superior. But what they failed to understand was that you were never broken, only in the process of being rebuilt. You were sharpening in the fire, growing in the shadows, transforming in the silence. While they laughed, you prepared. While they doubted, you studied. While they slept, you worked. And now, they see the consequence of their short-sightedness. You, standing above them, not as a survivor, but as a conqueror. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. Your suffering was a cocoon, not a coffin. They thought they had buried you, but you were merely taking root. Every whisper of doubt became fuel. Every betrayal, a lesson. Every loss, a necessary sacrifice. You did not return to seek their validation, nor to offer explanations. You returned because you belong at the top, because your journey was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving yourself right. And in that realization, you have already won. They celebrated your demise, but now they shudder at your presence. The very existence of your success shames them because it exposes their cowardice. You walked through fire they wouldn't dare approach. Do you remember how they looked at you when you were struggling? The pitiful glances, the smug reassurances that things will get better, spoken with a tone that reeked of condescension. They never meant those words. They wanted you to stay down, to drown in your own despair, to accept a fate they themselves feared. Because if you could rise, if you could break free, then what excuse would they have for their own stagnation? So they prayed for your failure, not to hurt you directly, but to soothe their own insecurities. But their prayers went unanswered. You did not just recover, you ascended. Now, watch how they change their tune. The same voices that mocked you now sing hollow praises. The hands that never reached to help now stretch forward in false admiration. They want to stand beside you now, to claim they were always on your side. But you see through them. You remember who was there when the world turned its back. You remember who stayed, who supported you when you had nothing to offer in return. And those are the only ones who deserve a place in your new world. The rest, they remain beneath you, not because you are cruel, but because they chose to be there when they had the chance to rise with you. They will say, you have changed. They will say, success has made you arrogant. That power has tainted your soul. Let them talk. These are the same people who cheered your destruction. Why should their opinions matter now? They only respect strength, and you have it in abundance. But unlike them, you do not wield it to belittle others. You use it to build, to conquer, to carve a path that no one else has the courage to walk. Their words hold no weight against the evidence of your triumph. The same voices that ridiculed you now tremble when you speak. There is a certain poetry to their regret. The ones who doubted you now dream of your approval. The ones who dismissed you now hope to be noticed. But you owe them nothing. Let them choke on their shame. Let them drown in the consequences of their own pettiness. You are not here to settle scores. You are here to rise, to dominate, to claim what is yours. Revenge is not your goal. Victory is, and you have already won. They celebrated your downfall, but you turned it into the foundation of your empire. You were never meant to be ordinary. You never fit into their boxes. never conformed to their expectations. That is why they feared you. That is why they tried to break you. But destiny does not bow to the weak. It favors those who refuse to kneel. You bled, you suffered, you endured, but you did not surrender. And that is why you are here now, looking down at those who once looked down on you. They underestimated the will of a soul that refused to accept defeat. Let this be a lesson to those who dare doubt you again. Let your success be a monument to the strength of the unbreakable. When they tell you it's over, when they laugh at your pain, when they celebrate your failures, remember this moment. Remember how their laughter turned to silence, how their arrogance crumbled into envy. Because this is not just your victory, this is your rebirth. And there is nothing more terrifying to your enemies than a man who refuses to be defeated. You are not here to make amends. You are not here to prove yourself to anyone but yourself. Their opinions are meaningless. Their regrets, too little, too late. Your only mission is to keep rising, to keep pushing, to keep evolving into the force they never saw coming. They mocked you because they feared you. Every laugh, every sneer, every careless insult was a desperate attempt to bury their own insecurity beneath the weight of your suffering. Weak men cannot stand the presence of strength, and they will go to great lengths to disguise their inadequacy as superiority. They needed you to falter because the alternative was unbearable, to face the truth that they, in all their self-righteous arrogance, were nothing in comparison. Their mockery was not a sign of confidence. It was a shield, flimsy and transparent, trembling under the weight of their own self-doubt. You were not the joke. They were. You were the mirror that forced them to see what they lacked. And instead of rising, instead of evolving, they chose the coward's path. They spat venom, hoping it would poison you. They hurled stones, hoping one would strike hard enough to shatter you. But they were never aiming at you. They were swinging at their own reflection, cursing the reminder of what they would never become. A weak man hides behind mockery the way a rat hides in the shadows. Cunning, deceitful, always gnawing, always chattering, but never daring to stand in the open. They scorned your ambition, not because it was foolish, but because it made their complacency unbearable. They whispered that you were delusional, that your aspirations were laughable. But if that were true, why did they spend so much time talking about you? Why did your existence consume them? A man truly above you would have no need to mock you. He would not waste his breath on a failure, nor would he feel the need to celebrate your downfall. But they did. They obsessed. They watched, waiting for you to crumble, desperate for the moment they could confirm what they had told themselves, that you were nothing, that you would never be more than the dirt beneath their feet. And yet, here you stand, unbroken, untamed, towering above the very insects who once cackled in delight at your struggles. The loudest mockery comes from the weakest mouths. The stronger a man is, the quieter he becomes, for he has nothing to prove to those beneath him. But the weak, they scream, they jeer, they ridicule, because they know, deep down, that their words are the only weapons they have. They cannot match your resilience, your discipline, your mind. So they turn to what requires no effort: mockery. They wrap themselves in it like a coward wraps himself in a cloak, hoping that if they degrade you loudly enough, no one will see how hollow they truly are. But you saw it. You always did. You heard their laughter and saw the quiver in their voices, the forced nature of their insults, the desperate way they sought validation in the eyes of others. Because a man who truly believes in his superiority does not need an audience. They did. They needed the chorus, the nods of approval, the nervous agreement of those just as feeble as they were. Every joke at your expense was a confession. They told on themselves with every insult, with every roll of the eyes, with every theatrical scoff they threw your way. They weren't trying to make you feel small. They were trying to make themselves feel bigger. But the problem with standing on the shoulders of mockery is that eventually the weight of insecurity crushes you. You saw the cracks. You saw the way their smiles faded when you refused to break. You saw how they faltered when you rose, how their laughter turned to silence when you climbed higher than they ever dreamed possible. And now, they say nothing. Or worse, they try to join you, to rewrite history, to pretend they were always in your corner. You will not forget. You will not forgive. Their mockery was the sound of chains rattling, the sound of prisoners screaming at a man who had found the key. They did not hate you for failing. They hated you for trying. Because if you succeeded, what would that mean for them? What excuse would they have for their own stagnation? It was easier to laugh at you than to change themselves. It was easier to tear you down than to confront their own inadequacies. But now, they live in a nightmare of their own making, where the very man they ridiculed towers above them, where their words echo back to them, hollow and meaningless. They wanted you broken, but now they are the ones lying in pieces, shattered by the weight of their own cowardice. Do you see them now? The ones who once spoke with such venom, now silent, now humbled, now looking away when you pass. They cannot face what they have done, what they have failed to do. They spent their energy tearing down a force they could have never hoped to stop. And you, unyielding, unstoppable, unwavering, you have made their existence a mockery. Not with words, not with laughter, but with action. You did what they never could. And now, their sneers have rotted into envy. Their arrogance has curdled into regret. A wise man once said that the world laughs at a dreamer until the dream becomes real. And it did.